So today we're going to talk about the upgrade and migration again to light the way for the future, what we think is going to be not only the technical team's involvement, but also management, the PMO. There's other teams, the developers or functional folks, business folks as well in the process of validations and parts where they have to get involved with, right? So today we're going to cover these topics. The struggle, as I explained, why we feel like there's a need to improve this process, and then what's broken today in my personal experience, and I'm sure many of you have done upgrades and migrations, you have experienced some of, if not a lot of these pain points. And then we're introducing someone as a way to bridge these gaps. We're not going to replace some, obviously. That's an SAP tool that they are required to use in a lot of the upgrades itself. It is a complex process, but we're here to provide solution around it, and not just in the upgrade itself, but in the planning, in the post analysis, in the continual improvement process. And then I'll go into a live demo. We're not only going to talk about the upgrade tool today, we do have a whole bunch of solutions around helping you make the whole project successful. So let's go through that. At the end, I will actually open up and have questions, and also we're here to kind of share what we're doing and get the community's feedback and see, hey, is this something that would be useful to you? If so, we like to collaborate and get your early involvement. I'd say this. I'm proud to say this is the first time we're reviewing this to the world, and I think it, once you've seen, it's kind of the world, the first of its kind. So it's kind of you guys a special group today that you get to see this firsthand. So why do we do this? So SAP Update Manager is a tool we run, whether upgrading or migrating. We are seeing this as a starting point for the technical portions. Of course, there's lots of planning that goes into it before you launch some. But once you're into the tool, there's on average, depending on the upgrading, what release to what release, thousands and thousands of phase inside of the tool. There are logs for every phase. There are error logs, there are regular logs, there's overview logs, and they're deep inside of the tool itself and hidden in the file system where up to this date, you have the SUM tool to bring up the log right there. But there's not really a tool where you can share with the organization if you're doing in a project. If you're a small team, maybe you're doing an upgrade, maybe you don't need any of this. You are a single threaded, you do everything from beginning to end. But we see more and more companies are doing this in a orchestrated manner. They have project management team. You have a single user on SUM that essentially running that. That's typically the basis guy designated to do the upgrade. Nobody else has visibility. You may have SUM Observer. Some has pointed out to me, yes, SUM Observer is there. That is a tool that you can look, and all it does is it show you your current phase. Nothing more. You don't get into logs. You don't get anything. So from that perspective, it's more like you're just glancing at a few lines that says what phase you're in, what time, and etc. So it's very limited functionality. We want to get more information, especially when you're planning a long thing like a 2-week upgrade from the uptime phase to downtime and completion, post-processing, all of that stuff. Okay. I also have issues recently with customers where we've had problems where we had a migration and maybe halfway through during one of the long running phases, if you're the only person doing it, you need sleep sometime, right? Because you're not going to go, 24/7. We're not, humanoids. And you rely on the SUM provided tool. People pointed out you have SUM Mail Notifier, which is a side app that does the notification when there's an error or where maybe there's waiting for you to have a dialogue. But you're not getting it email. I woke up like 8 hours later and think, hey, even the SUM itself, the web GUI was frozen. There was no like pop-up saying there's an error until I hit refresh. Something's wrong there. Hit refresh and yeah, popped up there's an error. Wow, that error happened hours ago. I checked my inbox. I never got the SUM email. So it's not 100% reliable. There are parts where it may just not work, and you might have to restart the notify to get constant messages updated again. So it's a tool, but I don't feel like it's an enterprise tool. It's something SAP provided as a side app you run. A lot of the issues I have with projects being run at this high pressure levels. You have a landscape of 3, 5, 7 systems. You might do 3 mock runs for production. You might do, individual 1 or 2 runs for other systems. You might end up with, let's say, 10 upgrades in one landscape, like going ECC to S4. There's a lot of project management that want to optimize, right? So they're asking you, well, how long is it going to take in this phase? How long is it going to take in that phase? When can we plan our developers to get in and do code remediation? When do we get in to do adjustment for dictionary and program? There's a lot of asking, and the technical guys typically it's like, hey, you want me to be focused on the migration upgrade, or you want me to be like also project manager and keep digging up logs and looking at estimates and giving you estimate that may change, hour to hour, right? So it would be better, in our opinion, to say, hey, PMO, you can get your view yourself, you get upgraded. We can even send out reports for progress automatically, for instance, right? There's also a lot of things related to doing the upgrade that there is no kind of real audit trail. What you do in actions, etc., is stored deepware in the log. But after you upgrade, you're like, hey, great, I'm going to go get some sleep because I've been missing out. And then logs are forgotten. People are like, hey, what happened? Who did what? What did you do in that screen where we had a failure in, some dictionary activation phase? And or maybe there was a XPRA program would fail activate some elements. What did you do? So a lot of these audit things we think are even more important to capture, because before your next run, you have to do a post analysis, you have to do a lesson learned, you have to build your run book. Next time you do, you can avoid these errors. There's ways to do that better than just capture it in some Word document that can run literally hundreds of pages doing screenshots. So I think there's a real inefficient way to do that. So we think there's better ways to do that, right? Again, what's the driver for this? Management always want latest and greatest of SAP, obviously. If they're going to stay on SAP, they want innovations, support packs. Even the customers who are already on S4, they want latest. They want 2023, 2025 coming out soon in Q3. So you're in constant demand of say, hey, when can I have this sandbox upgrade? When can I have this so that my business folks can play with it? When can I have this so I can plug in some, AI, SDK, etc., and work with BTP? So all of this ties to where the demand is coming from business to get system keep up to date faster. In this complex environment, it becomes extremely hard to coordinate across teams. So obviously, if you're on-prem, you're on cloud, there's many teams involved. In fact, if you go to RISE, you don't even get to touch SUM anymore. SAP is doing it. But if you are the project, you're owning other portions where you have code remediation, you may have business validation, you have other things like interface integration. If you're just giving this to SAP and say, just black box 10 days, you have no visibility into it. Wouldn't you like to also have them run the upgrade, but some visibility to it as well? So I think that opens up a discussion around how do we collaborate across teams as well, right? So I think from this, we see there are definitely issues in wasted time where there's lost times because you didn't get alert, or you're just tired because you're looking at the screen all the time. It is very attention deficit. You walk away, it dies. What if you're running a project across borders, across time zones? You have multiple people. You want to coordinate this so that when you go your 8 hours, somebody else can take over. They can actually see what's going on. Still, only one person can drive the SUM update GUI, but that doesn't mean there shouldn't be eyes on the process and see what's going on so that we can actually predict what's going to happen, who's going to be involved, and pull the project management team into it. So what I'm saying is that we are bringing this into a team spot and not an individual spot, right? We don't do upgrades as an individual, even though traditionally that's what happened. Even I being very technical in the past, I didn't like the fact that only one guy was seeing and working that screen. He's remote into some remote desktop and he's providing update every now and then. I actually want more information more frequently. Okay. So I think we kind of talked about already what's broken today. Again, thousands of things, cryptic logs. After the fact, it's hardest to collaborate when you are asked, say, all right, there were 10 phases where we had errors and stops. How much time did we waste? How can we make it better? How many reruns did we have before we clear that phase? Can you share some of that logs? Maybe open up OSS ticket, ask how can we avoid this in the future? A lot of these now require you to go back and dig around in the logs and things like that. Really, the migration might run for 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, whatever it is. But the post process is just as important to analyze and also use that as learning for your runbooks, right? So I think that's important to point out. Okay, so keeping through now with the hidden costs of keeping SAP current, we already know that, right? Patching fixes. So now if you have third-party packages, you also need to run through SUM for some of that, or Saint, and then doing all this running through SUM. We need to be able to keep up the patching cycle. A lot of customers say, if I haven't really patched or have a support pack in a year, this to be more frequent, right? Especially with things like cybersecurity awareness, as always, hot notes that need to be applied. In this case, we think that driving a better way, a process of doing update or lifecycle management is very important, and avoiding the burnout. So we already know the team that are running upgrades, the technical team, are already stressed out when you have an upgrade project. It's very, very intense. There's so many nodes to look at, so many things to patch before you even get to run SUM. So let's not add more stress to that process. We talked about this, so I'm gonna just summarize again. If only the basis people have access to SUM, it used to be like I feel like I'm in control. I have all the information. Everybody go to you to ask what's going on. I think that if you want to run a superhero, you can do that. Or if you want to democratize and make it a team sport, I think it's a better way to manage this and lower the level of dependency on a single engineer, single one or two person, right? So we're kind of doing this in a way where everybody else is getting help, getting tools to help them manage projects better and delivery better. So not just for an individual customer, but looking at the context of having a global managed service provider, system integrators doing hundreds of upgrades for different customers. How about a visual dashboard across all your customers to see all the upgrades going on, who's working on what, and be able to share that with management easily. So here I am again, very excited to say that today is the first time we're actually showing this, going to say live. So we're going to show you what SUM looks like in the monitor phase of IT-Conductor. I'll talk a little bit about what IT-Conductor does end-to-end for managing lifecycle, not just the SUM portion, and then increase the level of collaboration, allow you to get kind of notification, not just maybe get an email, but also getting a ticket, right? How about if SUM fails, get a ticket? Ticket can open in your ITSM, could be ServiceNow, or in IT-Conductor, we open a ticket, and that ticket can be the point where you collaborate across teams and insert your notes, updates, etc., and close it out when the phase can continue successfully. And then you can go back and say, for this project, for this upgrade, how many tickets did I have for different failures? That would be a better way to run than just capturing it in some Word document somewhere. And at the end, it's a black box, 20 days long, right? So I think that's also very important. All right. So this is the interesting portion. So let me give you overview before I jump into the summary. So IT-Conductor is a full end-to-end automation, orchestration, and monitoring platform, right? So we monitor full stack everything from SAP infrastructure database OS. You can see over here, this is our demo environment. Let's just imagine you running an operation and you have SAP, 20, 30 systems across different platforms, different versions, etc. Here's all of your kind of assets, IT assets you're managing. You have a global kind of health dashboard, and you have different places where you have maybe you're a hybrid, you're on-prem, you're on cloud, maybe you're multi-cloud. You have a complete environment there. So when we do an upgrade or migration, we don't just go jump in and do the upgrade migration. We have to do a full end-to-end assessment process, looking at every system, doing a deep. So we had a session last month talking about better ways to do the assessment. So we have live data-driven type process to help you get to the point where you have mapped out, you understood very well the source, you're going to build a target, and then you're going to have an upgrade cycle to get you there, right? So I'm going to highlight a few things. So what we do is in this, we have a site we call migration. So let's say now you have a migration project. What systems are in scope? What systems are not in scope? What source environment you are. So you can run a full discovery of the source using our data-driven assessment tool. It will collect data about the source. And then once you have that data, you can use that to size, to actually architect, and then design your deployment. Everything from infrastructure as code all the way through deploying the standard SAP system, build a shell, and then migrate the data. So I'm going to go and over here. So if I open up migration, you can see now, this is just a one we mock up for this particular demo, but essentially, think about a migration. You might have like 5 or 10 different upgrades going on. So in this case, you can see, you have Linux systems, source target, you have kind of overall health that you can dive in and see, okay, make sure before I start, all my systems are healthy, right? So for instance, if you have a case where the source system has some issues, maybe it's performance problem, maybe it doesn't have enough resource, not enough file systems, etc., you want to deal with that first. So we don't just jump in and run a migration. In this case, we're going from this demo on Oracle to S4HANA. So we do ECC to S4HANA 2023 upgrade. You also want to make sure that system, Oracle, and I've seen this where people just jump in and do the upgrade and migration, that someone's going to tell you, hey, you don't have enough space, blah, blah, blah. So you need to know all that beforehand. So in case what we're doing here is making sure that we plug the tool into the source. We plug the tool into the migration server. So you can see here, I call it SUM host. This is actually the migration server and designated to run the DMO process, which is the database migration option. You have to have a line of sight into your source, your target, and your migration server. Otherwise, how do you know how hard to drive the upgrade, right? So how many process should I use for my loading? How many process should I use for my batch, my dialog? And remember, a lot of the downtime optimization, you are running part of the upgrade during uptime. So uptime, you also want to know you're not stressing the source system as well. So it's very important for us to realize that this is not just about running the SUM tool, but you have to know so that you can make it efficient way to move data across by not stressing the system too much. And you literally could have some fail in between. I had cases where the source database, let's say Oracle, ran out of space because during the shadow creation or during some of the checks, it fell because it couldn't extend, let's say, even system table space or something like that. So you want to be able to have full visibility into the source. That's the first thing, right? And then from an SAP standpoint, I'm just going to skip forward. It's also important to understand, for instance, I'm going to migrate. The first one I'm going to show, we're going to migrate ITC system as an example. What you have here is what we call an overview of a system. So when we plug in as an agentless platform, within an hour, you get a full complete view of the system. So for instance, okay, I'm going to go migrate. And I need to know what components, what systems, etc. It can easily go in here and say, I want to know, because components are important, right? This is what is going to fit into your particular maintenance planner, SAP, to download software. How much download do I need? Depends on how many components I need, right? What versions, etc., is also important. Some versions are assumed to upgrade, but a lot of versions may not be compatible with your target. So it's important to do this kind of a level assessment. So we provide like that information for your assessment phase, your design phase. And then once you're in the actual migration phase, you would have full visibility. Not only, remember, when you're upgrading, migrating, SAP, you have no target. Typically, it's not set up for monitoring. But in IT-Conductor, we believe you need to connect at least the OS, the database, even in the shadow database while it's doing the pre-processing phase. You can get full visibility into that system. Its health, its uptime. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it running out of memory? Is it running out of CPU? This is very important. Not just wait till after you've done the migration and then go in and they just do the monitoring, right? So you can see here, we have this thing called SUM ITC. So because we know, relate that, oh, there's an upgrade going on for this system. I'm going to skip forward and show you what it looks like, right? So if I click on that, I get into this SUM ABAP type scenario. Okay, so what happened is that we have ability now, and actually I might go to a different example here, but let's go through what I navigate to show you how we get there. So there's one place we can see all the upgrades, but there's all place where you from the SIP that's an upgrade is going, and you can get this visibility. Now, just to highlight, if you click updates, you will see you might run this 2 or 3 times. So for instance, we don't just do one time, right? We do a mock and then we may do it again, right? So with SUM today, when you say I'm ending this and I'm restarting, it removes everything. It removes everything in your ABAP directory. Yeah, it creates a tarball, puts it somewhere else. And if you want to get to it and analyze it, it's very hard to do. You really just have to download, whatever, a gigabyte compressed file, open it up and look for log files and try to figure it out. We have gone through the effort of pulling that information into IT-Conductor. You can see I run this and now have an overview of what this actually looks like. So for instance, if I say, you know what, I have this thing that's 42% done, we actually stop this particular upgrade mid-flight just to demonstrate what happens in between. Like for instance, if you've done an upgrade, it's 100% done. It's less interesting, but somewhere in between, if you say, hey, I'm like during uptime doing data copy through the DMO process, show me all of this information. So we have this view where you can go into the project view, or you can go into like a Gantt view, right? So the Gantt view, now don't be shocked that this thing shows it's not done yet because I stopped it on purpose. So at some point, we snapshot this thing so that we can show you the actual upgrade. So if I go in here and I go down to the views, I can get down to, okay, I was in the configure phase, and then configure went to check phase, and check phase went into pre-processing, and then pre-processing, I'm going down to my shadow import main phase, and this is where I can keep expanding to see where I am. I'm tracking this near real time, but this is historical snapshot of something that was in flight. So I want to show you what that means. So if you're in flight, right, you get, oh, here's the flight phase I stopped at where I kept 42%, okay, because everything else is. So it shows it's running, right? It has a time, it has number of dates in flight, et cetera, et cetera. So we are pulling this information from SUM. We're doing near real-time update now. SUM is right on the server, right? It's showing you something on the SUM screen. We are tapping to that information for analytical purposes. We have this data we can bring now. So for this phase, for instance, if I want to show, hey, well, show me what is going on, in that phase that I'm stuck in. How much percentage am I up to? So you can see in that phase, this is back then, this phase is 99.9% done. The overall project up SUM is 42% done. So I can monitor, this can refresh. I can see how many jobs are running, how many process transferring, copying the data from source to target during uptime, right? So this is like live data into it. You don't need to be on the SUM tool anymore. You can be on here. You can still have the engineer drive the SUM if it needs to come up with dialogue or something like that. So as an example, what we've done, and I can show you real quick also, we can open incidents in IT-Conductor, and I'll show you a couple of screens here. So for instance, we get tickets that we open when there's anything like a dialogue or a stop, an error, right? So for instance, so we actually opened automatically ticket when this happened on the SUM process. So what you get here is you go into what we call our integrated help desk. You can see example here. So this is actual ticket related to a step that now SUM has stopped waiting for action, right? So if you are subscribed into this as a team, so you might have maybe 3 people involved in this upgrade project, and you go to sleep and then it stops. You want a ticket open, right? Your team will get notified. It tells you what phase it stopped in, all right? Now you can go in here and you can put comment just like any ticket. Now think of it, by the end of SUM, you might have 30 tickets, but you can go back and analyze your project and say, yeah, you know what? In this actual run, we had 30 issues that we had to deal with manually, et cetera, et cetera. And here are the tickets to prove it. Here's the time they were created. There's no going back anymore, going into your Word document, say, hey, when did I stop and how long did I take before I resume? Because management always wants to know what was the actual true time if I did this in production. what was the time loss, right? How much manual thing do I dispatch this to some team to deal with it, come back and start. So there is a clear way to integrate this into smarter notification and manage it that way from a ticket standpoint, right? So this is an example. Now I'm going to go skip forward to a little bit more interesting view. So since we do multiple upgrades and upgrade, I'm going to show you that same one that was stopped at 42%. And we actually ran it all the way through to 100% and show you what it looks like. So this is actually called SUM SD2. So I'm going to open this guy up. I have already one running, but I'll just start from scratch to show you what that looks like. So for this system, I can say I took one run. It went from July 2nd to July 12th, 100%, all completed, right? So now I'm in this, again, I'm going through this. I can go through Gantt level, or I can go through the each individual phase, right? If I'm looking at like an overall progress, if you're done with the upgrade, you have this tool SAP provide you with the upgrade analysis, right? So we've integrated the upgrade analysis in here. So look at this. If you're looking for ways to optimize and things like that, it's very hard to do this after the fact. In fact, SAP will produce you this file. You can upload to SAP portal, etc. But that's really a tool for one person, not a team, not a project. We actually have this information. You can see all the data about what source system, what target system, how it was configured, what's the runtime, all the packages, etc., all in here, right? So you can go back and look at all your upgrades and migrations. You can see where you spend most of the time, right? So this is standard SAP tool. We didn't do anything except we capture this information as a side benefit to actually running this summon tool, right? But during the upgrade and migration, you also have ability to, again, show you the logs I showed you before about every single phase, right? So we have integrated this. We also show you every console log. So remember, when you stop an error, you may have some decision to make about something, and then you continue. We will show you all of the interactions at the console. So if even somebody else is driving, you can have your teammate monitor the console logs here, so you can see all the actual interactions. Right now, this is important because if you want to know about all the places you stop and answer, what did I do? How did I pick? Instead of doing screenshot, you can do that. Now, you can also have screenshots, obviously. And let me show you how that works. So every single phase here, right? Let's say I had problem with the activation phase, the dictionary activation failed, blah, 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 right? If I have a problem with the a particular phase and I'm capturing the input. So I can go in and say, I need to capture some logs. So how do I do that today? Well, I'll show you a quick report that we generated already for this particular thing. So this is an email for one phase that failed. And I'd say, hey, I need to send this to the developer. So in the phase that failed, I captured the screenshot. What failed? Why did it fail? How did I fix it? What node did I do? I captured this in the actual log of the phase. And then I send an email out, right, to the team and say, hey, send this to developer team so they can look at it and capture that. And then I moved on. Or maybe you're asking for some input before you continue on with the phase. Is it okay to accept these errors, etc.? So these now can be sent from IT-Conductor in Summon, right? But there's also ability to do the full report. So at the end of my upgrade, for instance, or during my upgrade, I can go to every single phase that has some errors that need some interaction. I can actually do my screenshot, save it in that phase as a comment, and then I can get this automatic report generated and say, hey, you know what, this phase I need to put in the input. This phase I need to deal with some errors, and here's the notes I use to apply it. And that phase I do this. So this can be sent out as what we call kind of a comments report. They can send to a summary of people that are watching this and say, hey, what are some of the things so far that we have to deal with, so that we can update our run book to make sure that we have information about how it's dealt with, right? So this kind of report can be distributed, right? It can be shared to multiple people. So if I go into online, the same analysis report can also be sent. So this one here can also send. So instead of before sending around the XML file, you have a more friendly way to do this now. And now if I go into, actually, let me try again to go to comments. Let me go into. So to do this, you can simply go to any phase, and let's just go to something I know might be a problem phase, and I'll show you how that's done. So I had problems with this particular phase in this upgrade. What did I do? Blah, blah, blah. I can pull up the error, right? So anytime when we have a phase that's doing it, the logs is attached to the phase. If I click on the phase itself, I have full detail about how long it run. Let me just screen down so I can show you the full. So in every phase, you can do this. You can say how much time, how many reruns that I have. If it failed 5 times, and then I have to do, fixing in between and rerun it. You have processing time. There's also, if there's a dialogue involved, if there's errors involved, what is the total duration? You can get all of this analysis. So we plan to actually fully allow you to do reporting across and say, show me all the phases that had dialogue. So show me all the phases that had, let's say longer than, some hours of processing. And here, when you do comment, this is how we actually enter the information that you used to have to capture screenshots and put somewhere else, right? Because then in this particular case, if I go into full screen, I can show you this phase, and we have ability to look up the task comments, if there's any, or enter new one, right? If new comment, and you can capture to your heart's content all the information, like an example, all the screenshots, all of the dialogue that you want to put in there. So this is effectively now your live runbook, right? So that's the power of saying, I don't need a separate document. Now it's basically from an audit trail standpoint, I have all the places in these upgrades I can do this analysis with. So now you have the full log, you have the full kind of report, you have integration, you have phases that you can dive in deeper, monitor, and then you can collaborate this. I'm going to step one level up just to show you what we are planning with all this. Again, the upgrade is one thing, but before you even get to the upgrade, you have a whole migration planning, a whole project. So at the project planning level, there's preparations, there's consistency check, like as you do SI check, right? For simplification items. A lot of these are things that are managed at the project level. Maybe you're doing Jira, maybe you're doing some kind of tool for project management. A lot of them are static. They're always going to ask you for time, effort, duration, who's what. What we plan to do is actually orchestrate all this across the board so that you can do manual project management in here, but you can also tie in something like log all users, run some report. You can run directly using IT-Conductor and get the real-time interaction as an orchestration tool, right? So some is just some part in here, like a small part in here, but there's lots of things in the project where you're coordinating type activities with like different teams that we can bring into the full orchestration picture. So that's one of the things we're working towards there. Essentially replacing static type project management, where you now have global upgrade projects where they're integrated, everybody's collaborating, and then whatever, maybe even 20% of it could be automated, not all of it, but running things like simplification item checks, are simply running batch jobs, doing things of that nature, or shutting down systems. We have a full service catalog, which would help the type of effort you would do to do lifecycle management. So think about it. During an upgrade, you're going to have a lot of things that I need to patch this kernel first. We can do kernel patching. I need to activate the power user for the database to do a database patching. Or I need to activate certain users, right? So we do this one full compliance within auditing and also the change management request process, approval process. You can have a full orchestration playbook where you're doing a lot of things where I need to stop systems, I need to bring it up. There's all the ramp down, ramp up. All of this can be orchestrated, automated. If you're doing change where you have to move mass number of transport as part of project change, anybody's maintaining parallel landscape as part of upgrade project. There's lots of transports that are moving across, parallel transports, also kind of remediation work, putting in notes. So we actually have full change management built into IT-Conductor. It's called CHI, Change Automation Intelligence. And then a lot of the things that we do in terms of making sure that the source, the target, all of that is healthy, it comes through the monitoring pieces. So this is a service catalog. Today, we automate things like patching OS, patching SAP kernel, all that stuff can be done automated in IT-Conductor. So when I talk about upgrade, it's not just going into SUM and doing something there. There's a complete visibility from end to end, how to help you move along the whole project, right? From discovery, we also talk about like how we can discover across all your SAP systems in about an hour, right? So connecting to your environment and pulling all this in landscape information to say, hey, what's in scope for upgrade, for migration? If I'm doing this and I have no idea how many systems, what components, what size to build, what is the bill of material for my cloud environment, we can get this information done very quickly in a number of hours, right? Not weeks or whatever. And that will give you ability to go in and say, I need to be able to scope my effort. I have information about my system, what release, what version, what type, what database they're on. So we pulled all this information and get that information for you during the assessment phase. And then we can connect into monitoring if you want to do deep level baseline of your system, right? So this is where the landscape kind of comes in very handy as part of that whole assessment piece. Now, if you are an automation shop, we move to the next level. When we talked about this in the past, IT-Conductor is a fully approved product for using as a platform for your whole entire migration. So if you go into cloud, for instance, we have automated wizards where you can do migrations in flight, real process orchestration, right? You can deploy systems, we can move data, we can run SAP installation in silent mode, you can do HANA patching, all of that stuff can be infrastructure as code. You have source systems, you have the actual orchestrations, and then you have on the far side here, the target cloud deployment. So if you're deploying into AWS or Azure or GCP or whatever it is, you have ability to also manage that, what you're deploying for projects. And so you're not just doing a one piece. So part of what I see it challenging a lot of customers is they split out to so many groups and the information is very scattered, right? But if you're running a project, you want that to be very, very coordinated and centralized. Now, another thing is from a security standpoint, if your systems are going to get upgraded or migrated, a lot of questions are like, are you even up to date on security stuff? We now have coordinated from a monitoring standpoint and automation to look at all the SAP security nodes pertaining to your system. So let's say, for instance, all of the security nodes are pulled down on a daily basis onto your system and showing you whether you've applied this with critical. You can decide to include this in your upcoming patching cycle, etc. And again, if you do need help to automatically deploy some patches, that's an area where IT-Conductor can also collaborate with you, whatever your patching process looks like, whether it's OS kernel, etc. But this gives you now, your management have ability to say, show me every system, how far behind am I in like security nodes, right? If you come out every month with patching Tuesday, but I don't do it for the last year, how far back do I have all this? So we kind of pull this information to make it easier for you to also make that decision, right? And then again, I'm back to where I am with the upgrade. So I'm excited to say that this is kind of now, in terms of what we're doing with this moving forward, we want to get customers to be excited. We get partners who are doing a lot of this to say, this is a better way. Oh, tell us it's not useful. I mean, if you have a better way to do this, great. But we are here to kind of recruit the community to participate in what we think is the next phase in managing upgrades and migrations better. Not only doing the work, but also orchestrating, coordinating across teams, making it more efficient, right? And have full visibility and auditability so that now the basis guy, if you want to be the hero and sleep only 2 hours a day, great. But if you want to, make it a democratized process, this is what we think can do the job. And we're building on this. We will be looking for people to work with in getting this out and getting into the actual use case of your own customer, your own systems. So at this point, I'm going to open up for questions because There's a lot more to get into, but I just want to make sure I respect your time. So let's open up. If people have questions, you can raise your hands. I'd be happy to answer them live. Anyone? If not, what we can do is send out some information about how you could sign up and participate in terms if you want to get a one-on-one kind of test in your environment. Talk to us. We would like to get your inputs and then how we can collaborate to give you the tool to try and run on your environment. It is a cloud-based environment, so we will connect to your SUM instance and provide you with that, the source system that I show. We can actually plug into the source, plug into your migration server if you have one, and then plug into your target, even if it's an empty shell. And we do the whole end-to-end as one project, and then look at the timeline that you have to upgrade and how we can help you manage that. So this including with our SAP Team Download Manager, and then the source and the target monitoring is part of the whole bundle that we're trying to give as a solution to help you manage the project upgrade migration better. Right. So I think that's kind of my take on that. Anyway, I'm turning back my camera and just want to make sure that people on the call here, I think I've covered most of what I said that we set out to do as part of why we build this around some of the SUM pain points, and hopefully you see some value in this. All right, have a question here. How to answer a question from project manager. How much longer do that's a good one. So question is how much longer for the dig upgrade? So I mean, if you pick on any phase really, and we know that there are some phase that just runs forever, how much longer, etc., etc. The beauty is the first run, SAP always tell you the first run is almost throwaway. You run standard with an optimization. Second run, you do optimize, and then the third run, you even optimize more. What I look at is this. If you're looking at the stat log, so you have near real-time access to this. So every phase that has something that runs long, like EU import, dictionary obsolete, just for kicks, right? I'm going to look up DDIC UPG, right? So I'm in this phase, and all right, so started at 402. This is that's pretty fast. But let's say this run I have phase is actually I might show you as a one that I know. Also, when you are building the shadow, now you're activating in the shadow, you've got phase like this that runs, and literally could be for days. So 7, 8, when it finish? 7, 9 still running. 7, 9, I think went all the way to 7, 10, right? So you have this where it does predict, right? So some try to predict how much left. So if you're looking at this, you have a start, a time, and then what it's predicting to be the projected finish, right? So you do have it, you can give it to them, but your best guess is that if you're going the second time around, you have access to this. So I always run projects where I do the first one and I use the stats on that to optimize and analyze. When I run the second time, I have this in one of these tabs, and I say, hey, I know exactly how long this ran for, right? But not only that, I have the Gantt chart to show for it now. So if I'm in this, I can easily show how long something took, because I can just go here and say, Mr. Project, you can go get this information yourself, right? I'm in the go down to where the phase is. And again, if you already have this in the in your online log as well, you can see. So like for instance, shadow import, shadow activation, man shadow run, all of this, right? You can get down to that level information and show them each phase you highlight, show the time and how long it ran for. So if I go over here and I say, what is this phase? The SI checks, right? SI check for running simplification, etc. How long did it run, right? From 7.2 to 7.4. Now you can even go down there and see what phase, why did it take so long? So if you go into this slice and dicing, you can always identify where something took a long time. EHP inclusion ran for this long, right? So doing this kind of thing, conflict checks, right? Again, we can produce reports to show you, let's say, what were the top 10 phases. And in the top 10 phases, you can say, oh, how by time or whatever, right? So yeah, somebody show how long does it run for? It's processing. Yeah. So yeah, it's very common that you're stuck in a long phase. It's not that you don't have anything to do there. You actually do have ability to project based on SAP's the stats that it shows. Again, it always estimate to the far right. It could be off, right? It's not that 100% accurate, but it always tells you. It tells you what your currently percentage is and when it's going to end and number of jobs running, etc. So if you're moving data, you're activating things. There's always SAP number of jobs running, number of process, number of loads, number of whatever transfer, and it's projecting that. And then you can basically give them based on that projection. Right? So good question. But I like to think that there is always a better way to give them information than just say, hey, it's a black box, it's going to run and it's going to end in 2 days. No, you need more information. They want some information. Why is it doing 2 days? What is it doing? Is it moving or not moving? Because we have full access to the source and target environment, we can even see the number of work process running, the CPU consumption, or the space moving. Sometimes there's nothing going on from a process level, but you look at the network. So for instance, if I'm in here monitoring the systems, right? If I'm in here and I want to see if there's any activity, I could go into the SUM horse and show them, hey, look, there's 300 process running. We actually have process monitors, but we also have things like I want to know what my I/O rates are going on this because I'm writing to whatever my storage is. I can also see my network activities going in and out of the interfaces, right? So there's a lot of things we can provide to know that something is still going on and not just like blindly say, I have no information. Transmit data, bits per second. So this type of thing, I say observability is key to answering most of these questions. It's not just a one-time thing where you hit something and you sit there and wait for the next error or some dialogue to come up. There's ways to provide better information. Again, we invite you to talk to us and give us feedback. We'll send out some information and this recording as well. We'd be happy to kind of share with the community where we're planning to go with all this and would like to participate. Definitely would be interesting thing to do is get the community's involvement, because so far as I talked on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people expressing similar pains. Of course, there's always people from SAP saying, yeah, you don't need any tool. SAP's all you need is best things in sliced bread, but we think different. There's always ability to improve things. Okay, if there's no further other questions, I'd like to thank you for your participation today, and we look forward to collaborating in the future, or just reach out, ask us, or give us some of the wish list that you may have that you think might be a good addition to someone. Okay, I hope this has been useful, and we'll see you on the next online webcast. Thank you.